The plane was taking off, but the airspeed showed 0. In a panic, the captain glanced at the ground speed indicator. 100 knots barely calmed his nerves. The first officer suggested aborting, but the captain, thinking the fault wasn't serious, ordered switching the speed source to the alternate pitot tube. In these few seconds of doubt and action, the plane had passed decision speed. This was the point of no return. If they braked forcefully now, the inertia would send the plane off the runway, with unimaginable consequences. The runway lights grew closer. The crew had no choice but to grit their teeth and take off. In this instant, the most perilous flight of their careers officially began. The moment the plane left the ground, a piercing onboard alarm blared. Without airspeed data, the auto throttle system completely failed. The co-pilot decisively pushed the throttles to max thrust, following emergency protocols, maintaining a 15-degree pitch. With an unknown speed, this was the only way to prevent a stall. Actually, the Airbus A330 was equipped with 3 independent pitot tubes, a foolproof redundant design, but at this moment, they all failed. The crew repeatedly flipped switches, but all they got was a continuous blank. The 2 were utterly confused. 1 blockage was understandable, 2 failures were a rare occurrence, but 3 failing at once was simply beyond comprehension. Soon after, even more critical problems arose. A new alert popped up on the main display. The plane automatically entered alternate low, meaning power output would drop significantly. Airbus's core stall protection, the most needed safety barrier, also completely failed due to lost airspeed data. Keep in mind, up until now, any pitot tube failure during flight almost always ended in a crash. Will their destiny also be the same as those planes that have crashed?
Malaysian 134.
So, at this critical moment of life and death, the 2 crew members quickly adjusted their state and immediately followed standard procedures to handle it. They immediately sent a pan-pan emergency call to ATC, requesting to climb to 10,000 feet, then activated unreliable airspeed procedures to troubleshoot. Manually flying a large airliner without speed data in the dark was like walking on a knife's edge. The first officer watched the remaining instruments. Each move was meticulous. Few knew the captain had 10,000 total flight hours, but only a few hundred on the A330. While the first officer had less total time, he had several times more A330 experience. In a critical moment, the captain broke standard procedures, decisively handing manual control to the co-pilot, while he focused on managing the situation and making decisions, maximizing both their strengths. As time slipped away, they knew the urgent priority was to return to base. The longer they stayed airborne, the higher the risk of error and the greater the chance of losing control and crashing. The crew struggled to adjust their course, attempting to restore pitot tube data while following air traffic control's instructions. However, their efforts to recover altitude data remained fruitless, severely impacting their morale. They had no idea the pitot tube itself was not faulty. The reason for its failure was shockingly simple. According to the flight manual, the crew had to shut down the 3 associated airspeed computers. This was an almost insane decision, because pitot tubes don't just provide speed data, they also carry critical information like altitude and position. Disabling these systems would severely compromise flight safety, and the action is irreversible. Ultimately, they could only rely on less accurate GPS to determine their altitude. Having lost all automatic control systems, they began their journey back. At 11:45 p.m., the co-pilot manually flew this half-crippled A330, beginning its descent. Luckily, after disabling the auto system, a special backup speed system activated at the airspeed indicator. It wasn't standard A330 equipment, but Malaysia Airlines had paid an extra $300,000 to add it. This device now became their saving grace. This system relies on elevation angle sensors and engine power to roughly determine the speed range. As long as the flight speed is maintained within the green zone, there will be no risk of stalling. This greatly reduces the crew's operational pressure. To avoid calculation errors in this system too, the crew again asked ATC for help, getting the radar measured speed of 210 knots. Though this differed from airspeed, it was enough for them to generally grasp their flight status. But the troubles weren't over. The airspeed computer failed, disabling the spoilers. Nose gear steering malfunctioned. The landing gear had to be gravity dropped. Meanwhile, 215 passengers in the cabin were oblivious to all this, calmly awaiting their destination. Fortunately, visibility was excellent that day. 20 miles out, the plane locked onto the runway's bearing. The landing gear successfully deployed and locked, averting disaster. Next, the co-pilot had to complete the landing visually in the dark. This was the most severe test of his career. He focused intently on controlling the plane, his gaze switching between the control stick and the backup speed diagram, every movement precise and firm. Finally, the plane landed smoothly. The captain applied max braking and reverse thrust, bringing the crisis-stricken airliner to a steady stop on the runway. The shaken captain immediately contacted maintenance, but no one expected the truth to surface so quickly. It turned out the pitot tube's protective cover hadn't been removed before takeoff, blocking airflow and causing all three systems to fail. When the captain leaned out and saw that fatal cover, he broke out in a cold sweat because he himself had overlooked this crucial detail during the pre-flight inspection. This crisis, caused by ground crew errors and flight crew oversight, was averted by a $300,000 backup system and the crew's calm cooperation. Afterward, Malaysia Airlines fully improved ground maintenance and inspection procedures to prevent recurrence.